The wilderness is my homestead, and just about 6 months ago I started anti-PKing, where the loot has been insane. So that's why in this video I'd like to share with you what I know about anti-PKing generally at wilderness boss caves. Now before we get into it, I want you guys to know I am by no means a pro at PKing or anti, but this video should give you enough of an understanding to at least get yourself started. First thing we're going to cover are the Runelite plugins. You're going to need to consider your screen size. I prefer to use stretched mode on the resizable modern layout, because this allows my inventory window to be much larger and closer to my opponent when I'm PKing. A lot of the OG PKers prefer fixed mode, which is great too, but for me I find the window to be a bit too small. So try both out, see which one you prefer the most. And do yourself a favor, don't be PKing on a fully maximized game window. Go ahead and shrink the Runelite client just enough to where your inventory window borders your minimap. This way, your drag distance to the player is as minimal as possible in your display. Next plugin we'll go over is anti-drag. This allows your items in your inventory to stay in place more easily while you're going through your gear swaps when PKing. This of course is optional, but I find it does help a lot. The next plugin is actually a fairly new one, and it's called the Death Daughter. And what this does is it actually renders your opponent on top of you while you're DDing them, allowing you to anticipate their next attacks more easily. Now some people may not agree with using this one, but in my opinion, it's not much more different than using the render self command, so you might as well try the plugin out for yourself. Another must-have is a Wilderness Lines plugin. This will show you all the multi-combat borders on the map. The red line shows the multi-combat borders, and the yellow lines are a reminder of the spear in range. If you get frozen within that yellow line, you can be dragon speared into multi and get piled by a team of PKers. So just keep the yellow line in mind as well, because there's multi areas all around the wildy boss caves. Next, I'd like to get into some basic PvP tips. First, we'll cover combo eating. In my inventory, I've got anglers, brews, and caramblons. To get a good combo eat in, you can eat the angler into a sip of Cerebrew for an HP boost of 38. Or, you can triple eat in one tick by eating angler, brew, caramblon, allowing yourself to heal 56 HP. As of the new sailing update, we now have a new method for a higher combo eat, using the marlin, Cerebrew into halibut for a total boost of 60. Though the new foods are a bit more expensive, you may not find the extra HP boost to be worth the cost. But if the cost doesn't bother you none, treat the marlin like it's an angler and the halibut like it's your new caramblon. One thing you want to avoid doing while combo eating is pot blocking yourself. Pot blocking is where you sip your brew before you eat your food, causing the combo eat to fail. So just remember to eat your food before you sip your brew. If you're close enough to your opponent and ready to dump a special attack, you can mask the wielding of your spec weapon by sipping a super combat pot before attacking. They'll be less likely to anticipate your next attack from the animation of potting up. Spellbook reordering can help you get your mage attacks off quicker if you have them placed closest to your opponent in your mage gear swap. So I like to leave my barrage cast in the top left corner of my spellbook. To swap spells, just right click your spellbook and enable spell reorder. DDing can be especially useful if you catch yourself running low on hit points and need to brew back up. But in the wilderness boss caves, you can freeze and DD to use the bosses more to your own advantage, especially in Spindel's cave where you wait for the web to be launched. So if you're not familiar with DDing, hop into LMS and give it a try. And as a quick reminder, if you enjoy PKing content and find this guide useful, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more anti-PKing content. Fakies are when you swap a weapon or armor, and quickly swap back to your previous weapon or armor to trick your opponent to swap to the wrong prayer. You'll see a lot of PKers swapping to their staff after a bolt, which sometimes causes the other player to pray mage, where you come back into a one-tick attack with your ranged weapon. If you're experienced enough, you can fakey an entire gear swap between mage attacks to make them think you're going to strike with range or melee. Unless you're both attacking on the same game tick though, you should never be swapping a fakie to robes, because chances are, you're just going to end up getting bolted on robes, and you're going to put yourself in a bad situation. With a couple of these tips out of the way, we're going to go review a couple of my older clips for an Artio anti-PK example. Here's what I typically use for a gear and inventory loadout at Artio. Artio is my favorite place to anti-PK, and this is why. At Artio you can choose to mage the bear, so when a PKer hops in you can have the TB pretty much ready to go. I like to hover over the mage prayer now for when somebody hops in, This gives you the upper hand when you go in with your TB and entangle, causing them to potentially splash your TB. In this clip I didn't do that though. He landed the TB the first try, and I was full TB'd for 5 minutes. There's going to be times where you're both frozen and the bear is on both of you. You almost always prioritize prey melee because this bear hits like a truck. Just throw on your dehides, your shield, and do your best to tank everything. This is actually the perfect time to anticipate a spec, so when you feel like you're healed up enough and not brewed down, go ahead and just send it. In this instance, the PKer felt the need to camp mage because of the Voidwaker, where the bear just ended up finishing him off, allowing me to finish him off with Voidwaker specs even through mage spray, cashing in for an 84 mil key. In this next clip, I'm getting absolutely smoked by this guy. I've got no choice but to tank these attacks. But I'm not done fighting just yet. This is a good time to go in for what I like to call the reset. As you leave the cave, start eating, heal back up with Cerebrus, and when you jump back down, don't forget to restore to get your stats back to normal, swap to mage, and get ready for the freeze, and repeat the process all over again. In this cave, the fight can turn to your favor at any time, and the best thing you could do is to try to keep the PKer in the cave as long as possible. In this clip, you can see I did just that. I froze the PKer, I DD'd, prayed mage so I can't get frozen here, and started to bolt away. This guy was completely out of food. Tried to escape, but I ended up getting him on the run out, getting myself a 35 mil key. Let's quickly summarize what we just went over in these clips. Fighting Artio in mage gear allows you to skip the gear swap and camp Augury Prayer, leaving you a faster response time to teleblock the PKer coming in. Always pray melee against the bear when in melee range, unless the PKer is coming at you with a spec. Keep the PKer in the cave as long as possible. Your bear duo will help you secure the kill. And if you're in trouble, go for the reset and try again. If you find yourself with 3 brews or less, it's time to start making a run for it. There's a lot of objects outside bear to freeze and hide against. Remember to restore before making your escape so your stats are back to where they should be. The next boss we'll be covering is Spindel, and this is actually a really fun boss to anti-PK at. Here's the gear and inventory loadout I usually like to use when I'm at Spindel. But, because Spindel's web is not fun to get frozen in, it's actually a good idea to consider bringing some adamant or mithril seeds with you to help get out of the web if you're in trouble, especially if you're playing the risk a little bit more. With inventory space being tighter at Spindel, that would mean sacrificing one of your brews or restores for your seeds, meaning quicker trips and more banking. Spindel is a smite trap for PKers, which makes it an excellent spot for anti-PKing. When I anti at Spindel, I choose to camp Augury Prayer with my Bloodbark body and legs on, so when a PKer hops inside, all I need to do is swap to my staff and chuck the TB.
Surprise, motherfucker!
If you have 99 mage, you're going to opt to do cape swaps in Spindel's cave. Switching to Ancients gives you a risk-free and powerful mage option against your PKers. It even lets you freeze your opponent much longer with Barrage. With Ice Barrage casts, you can freeze your opponent for an entire 19 seconds, over an Entangle which is just 14.5 seconds. In this first clip, you can see that we both get frozen onto the web, in which case it would have been the perfect time to have some seeds on hand. But we managed to get out of this and catch one more freeze before the PK runs outside of the cave. The PKer gets dangerously low on hit points, so I start to smite and bolt away. On the way outside of the cave, this guy pretty much got me. A good thing I had a stamina potion to sip here, but miraculously he ran out of run energy just around the same time as I did, allowing me to PJ him again, and eventually catch a freeze on him. Doing my best to finish this guy off outside the cave, I see his hit points gets just around 60 or lower, and while praying range, I went in for a Voidwaker spec, taking him out with a max hit through Pray Magic, for a big ol' loot key of 81 mil. In this second clip, I'll be going over the spear tech you can utilize in Spindel's cave. If you're wondering why this interface looks a bit different, it's because this anti was done on mobile. You can see I get this guy frozen a bit before the mage phase starts. I pray mage and start to DD so I don't get frozen onto web myself, and when the web launches, I run out and pull out the dragon spear. Usually, the dragon spear is used in team multi-combat scenarios, but because the web does all the work here, we make use of the spear's stun effect and let Spindel's web smite and kill the PKer. Your opponent is unable to do anything, meaning they can't eat or move, and all the damage stacks after those 3 seconds is up. Run in and out of the web, while brewing back up and restoring until your opponent runs out, or gets smited on the KO. This time, I cashed in a key for 33 mil. Let's summarize what we went over for anti-PKing at Spindel. You can consider bringing seeds, for the loss of a brew or a restore. The trips might be a bit shorter, but the seeds will get you out of the web if you're stuck in it. Bring cape swaps for ancients if you have 99 mage. It's generally less risk and a strong tribrid option, as well as a longer freeze timer than entangles. Bring less risk if you're deciding to spear them into the web, in case you don't make it out of the cave. Now we'll be going over a couple examples of anti-PKs at Calvarion. Here's my recommended low risk gear and inventory loadout. This boss, in my opinion, is one of the tougher boss layers to get kills in. This is mainly because of the size of the boss layer. It's the smallest of the 3 boss caves to fight in, which makes it easier for escaping. If you land a teleblock, you pretty much only have one chance to catch a freeze before they run outside. You can also opt to Venge PK at this boss, but in this example, I'll be Brit anti-PKing instead. In this first clip, you can see I waited outside to catch a freeze, but he chose to hide inside and try to log out on me. I ran back in and hit him just in time before he logged out. After catching my first freeze and trying to get some work in, he decides to run back into the cave, where I was lucky enough to catch a freeze. This guy put himself in the best spot for me, because when you're stuck frozen in the entrance of Calvarion's lair, the lightning attacks are more likely to stack around them, if you stick close enough during the fight. This guy got stacked right out by Calvarion, resulting in a 24 mil loot key. In this next clip, I was able to catch a TB, and a freeze before this guy ran out. But because I got frozen, Calvarion ended up using his shield bash attack, which, when hit by it, you're unable to attack for a while, ruining your chance for a better KO inside the boss cave. So be mindful of being frozen inside, because this can end up happening to you. Despite me getting bashed, I was still able to secure the kill, getting myself a 19 mil loot. Alright, time to quickly summarize what we just went over. Calvarion has the smallest lair out of the 3 bosses, so if you catch a freeze inside, try to play aggressively, as this may be your small window for a better KO potential. Fight close to the PKer to take advantage of Cal's lightning strike attacks. Try to run in and out between Cal's strikes to get as many strikes on the PKer as possible. Consider Calvarion's shield bash attack. Try not to get frozen when you're fighting inside the boss cave. I hope you guys are able to learn a couple things from this guide. I made this guide in hopes that I can get more of you guys out here in the wilderness, and to show you that the wilderness is not such a scary place if you have a better understanding of it. There's lots of potential to be had out here. I'll see you guys soon on the next upload. Good luck, and have fun.